Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're live in the studio, so get involved in all the chat and the comments. Going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news. We've got loads of stories to get through. We're going to be talking about Carlos Baleba. He's been speaking out about those United links, sort of. He's spoken about what went on in the summer and how it affected his form. So we'll be getting into all that. Also, Michael Carrick has done an interview, I think, with Mark Chapman from the BBC. I was just watching it just before we went live. Really good interview. Michael Carrick saying all the right things. I'm not going to lie. The more I listen to Michael Carrick, the more I think he's got to be given the job permanently. I know I'm getting carried away and it's early doors, but he just says so many right things. He just looks the part, he sounds the part, and on the pitch he's doing it as well. So we'll get into all that. Plus we'll be talking about Ruben Amorim and a couple of other transfer stories as well. Loads of people in the chat already. A bit of a debate going on about Carlos Baleba. Some people not too keen on that move. He's not had a great season, has he? I think it's safe to say. I think his form has improved slightly since, I think, maybe the AFCON, but we'll get into it. Not been great. Good to see Akash K, Mick Holohan, Tash Master in there. Jamie's in there. Good morning to all you wonderful people. Make sure as well you are hitting that like button too. Let's get straight into the Baleba one then. So he did an interview, it's exclusive, with Sky. So it says Carlos Baleba's form has improved since he featured for Cameroon at the AFCON. Brighton faced Brentford on Saturday in a bid to halt a run of worrying results. Baleba also praises James Milner. Yeah, we don't care about that. It's a scouser. So, sorry, have you got the... Yeah, sorry, yeah. So it says here, go down a little bit, no, sorry. That's it. Brighton midfielder Carlos Baleba says he feels more relaxed now after admitting there was pressure on him early in the season. He told Sky Sports, "I feel more relaxed now. The noise about me outside, I didn't understand. I didn't look on the websites. I'm more focused on me, myself, and for my teammates." Yeah, Baleba's, I'll get into some more of the quotes in a minute. Baleba's form was pretty drastic, wasn't it, early on in the season? I spoke to a couple of Brighton fans, and they were saying, look, he's basically just not been at the races at all. I think, I'm just going to have a look now, I think he kept getting subbed as well. His record was pretty horrendous when it came to actually finishing matches. I'm just going to get into it here. So 21, let's have a look. So yeah, I'm just going through it now, just a quick little look. So from the beginning of the season right up until November, he was subbed in every game. He was either subbed or he was a sub in one of those games. So, yeah, I mean, it was like regular as clockwork. 59, half-time, 60 minutes. Then he was a sub. Half-time again, 67 minutes, half-time, 71 minutes, 59 minutes. Then he played 90 minutes. And then again, there was a lot of games again where he was coming off the bench or was being subbed for half-time, 78 minutes, 60 minutes. Wasn't completing 90 minutes. Now, even since he's come back, I think he's completed 90 minutes once. So it's not like there's been a huge turnaround in terms of the amount of minutes he's playing. Obviously, the AFCON has effects as well. He was sub when on his first game back against Bournemouth, but he has completed a game against Everton, and from what we gather, there has been better performances from him. I still feel like the jury's out on this kid, and I don't know how long you can say that for, because, look, we're in February now, 3 months away from the end of the season. When you're going to start making decisions, aren't you? You're going to go, look, are we going to go with Baleba or Wharton or Elliot Anderson? Those are the three names we keep hearing. And Baleba at the minute, I don't know. I don't think he's done enough this season for me to justify a move to Manchester United. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Would you like to see Carlos Baleba? Some more quotes there. It says, despite the season's up and downs, he says, playing with a smile is key. All my qualities, I need to improve on that. The most of the qualities I have is I need to enjoy more football, because when I play, I'm so serious that I want to do the right thing or to do the proper thing on the pitch. Asked about how his coaching staff and teammates are helping him. All of them told me to be free, to be relaxed and just enjoy and think about football. And also, Brighton are having one, aren't they? A run of one win in 13 league games has seen them drop down the Premier League table to 14th. So they're in a bit of trouble. He's not having the greatest season. Now look, you can be at a club that are struggling. Elliot Anderson's at a club that is struggling. Adam Wharton's at a club that's struggling. Like, we bought Roy Keane from a club that got relegated, right? That just because the team is struggling doesn't mean you can't be playing well. You can. So I don't look at it and go, well, Brighton are struggling, so that means that Baleba's terrible. I just don't think he's having a great season. I just don't. And you can go, well, his past 2 seasons were much better, and they were, but can you take a punt? Can you take the risk? I think another thing that worries me about this Baleba transfer, and I've seen people make this argument, and it is a valid point, that, well, you can get him on the cheap now because he's had a bad season. He's gone from being worth 100 million to maybe being worth 60 million, but that's not the point. If he's not good enough, he's not good enough. I don't care if we pay £6 for him. If he's not good enough to play for Manchester United, doesn't matter that we've got him cheap. That's not going to help us, is it? You need someone who is good enough. And is he having a season that justifies a move to Manchester United? No, he's not. And you might argue, well, players have dips in form, and, form is temporary, class is permanent, all the rest of it. But yeah, he's had a dip in form that lasted about 6 months. That's the issue. And then you've got other targets you can go for who haven't had this sort of issue. They haven't had Elliot Anderson, I don't think. I know he's not always been, at the top of his game in the Premier League, but I don't think he's had a dip in form like the one we're seeing at Baleba. I don't know, man. I've been put off, is the honest answer to this one. Let me know what you think. Do you think you should get him anyway? Do you think that he's good enough for Manchester United? Are you worried about this season? Do you think he's improved this season enough to sort of justify Manchester United going in for him? Do you think he fits in with what Manchester United need? We definitely need a type of player like him in United. We need it as an option. We're going to lose Casemiro, we know that. We're probably going to lose Manuel Ugarte as well. I actually think we need 3 midfielders coming in, because we're going to have a lot more games, hopefully, than we have this season. We have 40 games this season. And now we're probably going to lose 2 midfielders and have 50 games next season, if not more. So let me know what you think. Frankie says, Baleba ain't it. Akash K says, I am still a Baleba. Does this mean Brighton can only demand 40 to 60 million for him? Fair enough. Gareth McNeil says, Baleba got injured and missed all the pre-season, so he was drip-fed into the side at the start of the season. He was, but his performances, I spoke to Brighton fans who watched him week out and said, okay, you can talk about injuries and all the rest of it. His performances weren't great. They were criticising. These are Brighton fans who liked him, and they were saying he just hasn't been good this season. Now, okay, you might say, well, he didn't have a pre-season, but how long can you use that excuse? I don't know. I'm worried. Slices of Sibs isn't. Baleba all effing day. Will not give up on Baleba. No way. Fair enough. I'm a Baleba, he says. Fair enough. Also, Phobo Sacco Man says, Wayne Rooney is the best bald United player of all time. I don't count Wayne Rooney as a bald United player. I know he had the hair transplant and all that. I know he had a skinhead at one point, but I don't think he's bald. Don't know. Let me know what you think. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about Michael Carrick. Michael Carrick, now favourite for Man United job with 5 rivals ruled out, according to the iPaper. It says here, Pete Hall, who's a friend of the channel, the whole point of getting Michael Carrick as an interim head coach until the end of the season was so United could carefully identify a stellar name, preferably with Premier League experience, to become their next manager. 4 wins from 5, and the dial has shifted. The iPaper has been told that Carrick now stands as good a chance as any candidate of getting the job on a permanent basis. It goes on to say why Michael Carrick has impressed. First and foremost, Carrick is really impressive in his temporary role, not just on the pitch. His relaxed aura, a man of few but meaningful words, has helped calm the waters after a turbulent end to Ruben Amorim's time in charge. It was a very turbulent end, wasn't it? That press conference after the Leeds game was as explosive as we've seen from a Manchester United manager. Shades of Ralph Ragnick, wasn't it? Sources have insisted the dynamic among Carrick's backroom staff is the perfect balance. Jonathan Woodgate has surprised many with his tactical insights and has taken time to work individually with defenders Aiden Heaven and Lenny Oro. His ability to speak Spanish has also proved vital. I didn't know that about him. I know he went to Madrid for 5 minutes. I didn't realise he spoke Spanish. Steve Holland's experience has provided Woodgate and younger faces around him in the coaching setup to operate cohesively. So it does sound like the whole setup is working, doesn't it? You've got Woodgate, who I was a bit like, really? We're getting Jonathan Woodgate with his checkered history bringing him into United, but obviously Michael Carrick's got to be able to appoint the people that he relies upon, and he's one of them. Johnny Evans, we're happy to see Johnny Evans back at the club. I know Roy Keane criticised that move, but it made sense, bringing someone who knew the players back into the fold. Then you've got Steve Holland, who everyone raves about. Very experienced coach. Travis Binion, who's been around for the under-18s for a little while, he was brought in, and the goalkeeping coach, whose name escapes me, forgive me, as well. So you've got a very good, strong backroom staff there, a good setup, and it's certainly doing the business, isn't it, in terms of results and performances. Looking at some of the other names in the mix for the manager's job here, Thomas Tuchel was one of the United hierarchy's top picks. The German is more combative combative. Why am I struggling with that word? It's not even that difficult. Than some senior figures would really choose. But his track record, especially in the short term, was more than appealing. His New England contract takes him out of the running. Then you've got Luis Enrique, haven't you? Luis Enrique is the main one, I think, that people look at as going, if we can get anyone, we should get Enrique. Says here that rumours have been circulating that Enrique wants a new challenge. And yeah, there are rumours that he is going to leave PSG at the end of the season. I don't know if Enrique, I think he might end up going to City, you know. I think if City win the league, Pep might walk away. And I think they might go all out for Enrique. That's just what I'm thinking could happen. Let me know what you think. I think Enrique is probably the most favoured appointment by the Manchester United managers I've seen on socials and chatted to. I think he's the one where you go, well, if Enrique's there, all bets are off. You get him because he's obviously won 2 trebles, plays football the right way, is arguably the best manager available. Well, not even arguably. I think in terms of his CV and what he's done, he is the best manager available in that respect. Doesn't have Premier League experience, but do you care about that as much when you've got a CV like his and when you've won what he's won and you've done it in a style that he's done it in? You're probably not that bothered, are you, about whether he's managing the Premier League? That's not the be-all and end-all. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat and the comments. We're going to get, someone's put Stam was one of the best in the Premier League. I'm going to get into the app Stam thing in a minute. Akash K says, yeah, Woodgate paid for Madrid. I'm that old. I remember Thomas Gravison playing for Real Madrid. He had a very good season at Everton, didn't he? And then he went to Real Madrid. I remember that. Heaven Soul says, I think the staff setup is vital. And if Carrick does to get the job, then will they all be willing to stay on? I think they would. Being a coach at Manchester United is still one of the biggest jobs in the world. And I think if they've been part of a successful spell under Michael Carrick, they're his guys. He gets to the job permanently. I think I'd expect them to want to stay on, and I'd expect him to want to keep them on. You get much better impression, don't you, from the coaching staff at United at the minute. It just seems to make sense. You've got the experience of Steve Holland. You've got the connection with the players that you've got with Johnny Evans. Jonathan Woodgate, okay, he's someone that Michael Carrick's worked with before. I understand that. Travis Binion has worked with the under-18. He's been at the club quite a long time. Like, it all makes sense. And I think that was one of the criticisms you might have had with Ruben Amorim and his coaching staff. I know I used to lay into one of them quite a lot because he was a big fella, but none of them had managed or coached in the Premier League before. None of them had been around Premier League clubs before, as far as I know. It all felt like it was a bit of a step up for all of them that they weren't used to, and that sometimes can be a hindrance. I think Erik ten Hag was helped when he first came to Manchester United with having someone like Steve McLaren involved. Because Steve McLaren obviously knew Manchester United, knew the Premier League, had that experience, and you need a bit of that. I'm not saying it's the be-all and end-all, but I do think it's a positive thing. And I think Ruben Amorim perhaps suffered with not having that experience, not having that connection in his dressing room, and it was all just, sort of newcomers to the club, if you will, to the Premier League, all working together. And ultimately, there's 100 reasons you can look at why it didn't work out for Ruben Amorim, but I think that is definitely one of them. Heaven Soul says, only reason is some of them may have only taken the job as it was 4 months. We don't know their personal lives, e.g. Evans wanting to spend time with his family. I don't think that if you're offered the job at Manchester United, if you're Johnny Evans permanently, that you turn it down. I just don't think he would. He loves the club, and also you can still have your cake and eat it. Look, I know it's a pretty full-on experience and job being a coach at Manchester United, but I don't think that means that he's not going to be able to spend as much time with his family as he can do or as he needs to. So I think Johnny Evans gets offered a job permanently at Manchester United. I 100% think he'll take it. Let's talk about Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim torn apart after mind-blowing Man United issue addressed by Michael Carrick. Ruben Amorim is still being subjected to criticism over a month since his sacking from Manchester United. So this is in the Mirror, and they're saying that Ruben Amorim has been slammed for demoting Kobbie Mainoo, who has since flourished under Michael Carrick. The Manchester United star has played a key part in the club's renaissance under the former Red Devils midfielder, who has led the side to 4 wins in his first 5 games in charge. So I think this is Owen Hargreaves, who's been having a dig, but he's been criticising Ruben Amorim for not playing Kobbie Mainoo. I'm going to get into more of this in a bit as well, because Michael Carrick's done an interview with Matt Chapman from the BBC where he speaks about this. But you can see here it says, he changed the whole team and everyone's in their natural position and they're performing. It's not rocket science, Hargreaves said. Put Bruno in as a 10 and let him go create. So there's two elements to this, isn't there? There's the element of Kobbie Mainoo not playing and there's the element of Bruno Fernandes playing in a deeper role. I don't want to keep going on about this because I feel like we do need to move on. And we've had the old debate about Ruben Amorim and everyone's sort of agreed or come to the conclusion that it just didn't work. And that whilst we weren't completely out of the top 4 race and it wasn't an ultimately disaster this season, there were a lot of decisions that just didn't make sense and didn't work. And you know my thoughts on Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo starts at Manchester United, and if the system doesn't work or doesn't fit Kobbie Mainoo, you change the system. I've said that since day one. Bruno Fernandes, I thought, honestly, Bilbao would have been the end of Bruno Fernandes playing in a deeper role. And when I say Bilbao, I mean the Europa League final against Spurs. I think that sort of highlighted for me how he's just not suited to that role and how he's much, much more effective further up the pitch. Now, that it didn't change. He still played as a sort of a 6, if you will, or a deeper line midfielder this season, and he still put up decent numbers because he is that talented, he can do that. But you can see how much better he is in a number 10 position, and it just makes far more sense to have Kobbie Mainoo alongside Casemiro with Bruno Fernandes closer to the business end of the pitch, doing what he does well. And obviously the numbers speak for themselves and the performances speak for themselves. So I don't want to keep going on about Ruben Amorim. It's worth mentioning because obviously it's in the news, and Owen Hargreaves said something about it. And we're going to get into the Michael Carrick interview as well. But we can see what needed to change, and we can see what Michael Carrick has changed, and we can see the effects of that. MN2K2 Shocks says, Jay, can you see Ruben appearing on Piers Morgan's show? Maybe. I don't know. I think Piers Morgan's show has a lot of money to throw at people. Maybe he'll want to get him on. Piers Morgan loves going on about Manchester United and trying to stick the knife in. If I was Piers Morgan, I'd worry more about the fact that my own club, Arsenal, are throwing away yet another title race rather than worrying about what Manchester United are doing. Let's talk about Michael Carrick because he's done this interview with Matt Chapman for the BBC. And I'll tell you what, right? Go and watch this interview. It's absolute class. It really is. Because I've always loved Michael Carrick. I loved him as a player. The way he played the game, what he brought to the team. He was so underrated. I think years from now, Michael Carrick's lack of England caps will be studied for as part of someone's PhD, because it just made zero sense to me how the fact he wasn't an England regular. It's just ridiculous. But that's a different debate for a different time. So yeah, he's done an interview with Matt Chapman, spoke about a lot of things, spoke about whether he'd have the job permanently. Was a bit coy on that. Obviously, I think he said it's the ultimate role and all the rest of it. Also spoke about the academy. I sent this to Finn. I don't think Finn's watched it yet, because me and Finn were talking about the importance of the academy for Manchester United, how important it is, and why we have this connection to our academy. So on that, he said it's a huge sense of pride on the academy tradition. On behalf of the whole football club, I think it's really outstanding to have such a long period of time. He's talking about this like 100 years, whatever it is, of always having an academy player in the squad, and it's something we need to hold on to. It's what this football club is built upon, really, and has been for so many decades. So yeah, I'm definitely well aware of it, and we want to carry it on. Now, you remember that at one point under Ruben Amorim, it looked like people were worried, is that going to go? Are we just sort of putting an academy player in the squad just to keep that tradition going? With Michael Carrick, it's certainly different. Kobbie Mainoo starts for a starter. Plus, he's had academy players on the bench. On Kobbie Mainoo, he said he's a fantastic footballer and he's got a huge talent. We haven't really got started on any of that in terms of working with him, because we're just letting him go and find his flow and find his rhythm of playing football again. I've been really conscious of not giving him an awful lot, a couple of little pointers, a bit of positional things, and some little bits here and there, but trust in what he is. Honestly, Kobbie Mainoo working with Michael Carrick is just a match made in heaven. It really is. Michael Carrick is probably the best player I've ever seen when it comes to his positioning as a footballer, knowing where to be as a midfielder. Because Michael Carrick, if you watch Michael Carrick, he wasn't one of those who was making sort of lung bursting runs and diving into tackles. That wasn't him. His positional sense was absolutely perfect. And as Rio Ferdinand said, he'd put fires out before they got started. He just knew where to be. He'd close down those sort of passing lanes for the opposition so they couldn't go and play the pass they wanted to, because Michael Carrick was there. That was his game. He's sort of very, very astute at reading the game so well. And if you can impart some of that wisdom onto Kobbie Mainoo, you are going to see Kobbie Mainoo get even better. And that is a mouth-watering prospect. So, yeah, I watched that interview and I just got completely carried away. And I was just like, look, at the end of that interview, I was just like, just give him the job. Forget anyone else. Just give it Michael Carrick. Honestly, that's how good it was. Ixter says, mainly learning from Carrick, we get Carrick 2.0. Yeah, I mean, it's something that you think, if that could happen, if he can learn from Carrick, then that can obviously take his game up a notch. Look, it is a weird one, because I understand people have reservations, because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had an amazing start to his time as caretaker manager. If you remember that early period when he very first came in after Jose Mourinho, where we won 10 of the first 12 or whatever, and obviously had that night in Paris, and it was like, oh my God, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is smashing it. So people have been sort of burned by that a little bit, because even though there was some success under Ole, we finished third, we finished second, ultimately it didn't work out, he got sacked. So people might have reservations going, look, let's not get carried away. But forgive me, I am going to get carried away. I am. I just can't help it. I just think the football's been much better. You look at what Michael Carrick's doing in terms of how he's getting the best out of certain players. He's doing the logical things, but you can't just do the logical things to go to the Emirates and get a win. It takes more than that. So I think you've got to give him credit on that front. He carries himself really well. He's saying the right things. I love him as a player. I'm loving him as a coach. Just give him the job. I don't care about Luis Enrique or anyone else. Just give it to Michael Carrick there. That's my 2p for what it's worth. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Let me know what you think. Ash Endens says, Casemiro and Varane have this inner sense as well. It's like a true nine knows where to be. Yeah, they say that, don't they? It's almost instinctive. Like, you just know where you need to be. Casemiro's very good at it. He's a little bit different in Carrick. You do see Casemiro making more sort of, goes to ground a lot more than Michael Carrick did, and that's not a criticism. That's just what his game is more about. Probably pushes forward a lot more than Michael Carrick did as well. But the thing that impressed me with Carrick as a player, if you remember that first season when he came to Old Trafford, he came from Spurs, and he used to push forward a lot more, Michael Carrick, in that first season. I think he scored the most amount of goals in his first season, the 06-07 season for Manchester United. And then it was almost exclusively like, you just sit deep. You don't push forward as much. I mean, he did obviously push forward at times, but your job basically is that sort of, protector in front of the defence. And what a combo you had when you had the likes of Michael Carrick with Rio and Vidic behind him, and then Van der Sar behind him. We were just spoiled, weren't we? We really were. Let me know what you think. Eric the King says, I wanted Carrick first time around. The guy is better now after his stint at Borough. MN2K2 says, what do you make of the rumour that Bruno wants 400 grand a week pay rise? I don't know about that. I mean, if he wants a rise of 400 grand a week, that ain't happening. If he wants to be on 400 grand a week, that does seem like it's too much for Ineos. I don't think Ineos would do that, because the noises we were hearing were that Ineos weren't going to do these huge contracts, so we weren't going to have the sort of, the Marcus Rashford, Casemiro, David De Gea type contracts we've had in the past, where we've made players like the highest paid player in the league, or one of the highest paid goalkeepers of all time, or whatever. So that was what we were hearing, that Ineos were going to put stop to that. So players can still earn a lot of money at Manchester United. I'm not pretending that anyone's going to be on the red line, but 400 grand a week seems like it would be more than what Ineos are willing to pay. We'll keep an eye on that one and see what happens. We've got a story here about Gabriel Veneno. So this is a spectacular generational Brazilian attacker, or we accelerate spectacular signing of generational Brazilian attacker. This is from Team Talk, I think. So United have quietly accelerated their background work. Jesus Christ. We've found a new one. It's not monitoring. It's not sending scouts. It's quietly accelerated their background work. Producer Ben says, don't turn the telly off this time. What the hell does that mean? How the hell do you quietly accelerate your background work? Have you ever got up in the morning and thought, do you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to quietly accelerate my background work. Because I certainly haven't. I don't even know what that means. Let's just say we're looking at this lad and we might be signing him. Yeah, he's a youngster. We'll keep an eye on him. He's obviously absolutely phenomenal. If you look at that, he became the first player in the history of Brazil's youth categories to score more than 80 goals in a single calendar year. So he's very, very talented. United are monitoring him. I'm guessing there's going to be lots of clubs in for him. We'll keep an eye on him because, those numbers speak for themselves. But quietly accelerating your background work, Jesus wept. Slices of Sib says, that means researching online. Yeah, accelerating your background work means I've just had another Google. You know what I mean? I've just gone on Transfermarkt to see what they're saying about him. Let's talk about Yap Stam, one of my favourite topics. So Paul Scholes, who's had a bit of grief, hasn't he, over the last few months about some of the comments he's made on his podcast about the likes of Lisandro Martinez. But regardless of what you thought about those comments, these comments are bang on. I think Yap Stam was better than Van Dijk. Thank you. Finally. He's right. I don't understand, right, how we've got into this argument and this debate with Virgil van Dijk about him being the greatest Premier League defender ever. I've said this millions of times. I just don't get it. I'm not saying Virgil van Dijk isn't a good defender, because he is, right? He's a very good defender and he's won the lot, right? So let's not kid ourselves that he doesn't deserve credit for that, because obviously he does. Very good defender. Deserves his flowers because what was it, 2 titles, only 1 less than Johnny Evans, so fair play to him there. He's won the Champions League, he's won, the other domestic trophies as well. So you have to give him credit for that. I understand that argument. I'm not, arguing about that. But this whole thing of him being the best ever, I just don't get it. Because for me, the best I've ever seen is Yap Stam. Yap Stam spent 3 seasons at Manchester United and he won 3 titles. Virgil van Dijk has been at Liverpool for, 9 years now? 8 or 9 years? And he's won 2. That tells you a story. And it's not just about, Yap Stam had better players around him. Literally, all you can do is win the title every season you play for Manchester United. And he did that. The only time we've won the treble is when Yap Stam's been in our defence. That's not a coincidence. It's because Yap Stam is unbelievable. He was an unbelievable defender. And Sir Alex Ferguson admitted it was the biggest mistake he made at Manchester United, was letting Yap Stam go too soon. That's what he did. So for me, Yap Stam is the best defender I've ever seen. The best centre-back, certainly better than Virgil van Dijk, as is Rio Ferdinand. I think Rio Ferdinand's probably the second best, as is Nemanja Vidic, as is Gary Pallister. I'm not going to keep going on. I could go on and on and on, but the argument for me that Virgil van Dijk is the best defender the Premier League has ever seen, it's just nonsensical. And I think people sort of twist the argument to sort of fit their narrative. And people say, well, look, he was winning titles at, at the age of 34 or whatever. At 33, he was winning titles and Rio was at QPR. Okay, then what was he doing at the age of 21? What was he doing at 22? Was he playing at Celtic or Southampton when he was that age, when Rio was at United as the most expensive defender ever? It's how you want to look at it. Who won more? Who achieved more? Who was better? United have got at least 4 defenders, in my opinion, that fit that bill over Virgil van Dijk, and Chelsea fans will probably argue John Terry, and there's other fans from other clubs who'll make their case for their defenders as well, but certainly agree with Paul Scholes. Yap Stam, best defender I've ever seen. And also, funny, Yap Stam had tougher opposition as well. There's only 1 or 2 out-and-out strikers nowadays. In those days, every team had at least 1, if not 2, top-tier strikers. And you were coming up against elite-level strikers constantly. And Yap Stam couldn't be bullied. People couldn't go past him. He was absolutely outstanding. As Paul Scholes says when he's mentioning him, it was the job that Yap Stam did that allowed the attacking players, that freed them up, the midfielders, to do what they wanted. This was before the days where you had to have a DM that just sat in front of you. You could have midfielders who were actually up and down and were attacking more because you had someone like Yap Stam. Yap Stam is just phenomenal. And as you might have guessed, I quite like him. Let's talk about United women. They won 2-0 against Atletico Madrid, 5-0 on aggregate, absolutely smashed it. Mark Skinner's players there, going through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Nice little celebration from the players there. So yeah, I think that's 8 games now on the spin that they've won. Obviously doing very, very well. Long may it continue. I think they're out of it in the league, but I think they're about 8 points, I think, off the top. But they're in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. They're in the 5th round of the FA Cup, and they're in the League Cup final as well. So there's a good chance of silverware there for United women. And look, I've said this a million times. Look, you might not be that bothered about Manchester United women, just genuinely. You might just be only concerned about the men's team. But any team that represents Manchester United should have the backing, should have the support of everyone, including Ineos. So Ineos needs to fix up and make sure that United women are fully backed, because I want all our levels to be at the top, whether that's the academy, whether it's the first team, whether it's women's team, whatever. So it's good to see them doing well. Long may it continue. We're going to be back later on today. We're going to obviously be previewing the Everton game. We're going to hear from Michael Carrick later on today. He's got a press conference. Thank God football is back. I didn't used to say that, supporting United. I was glad of the break, but it's been a long slog on it waiting for this next fixture, and Everton away is a tricky one, but with Michael Carrick at the wheel, we'll be okay. So we'll be hearing from him on his press conference. We'll keep you posted on our socials about that. Then we'll have the brew as well, plus we'll be looking ahead to the Everton game. Make sure you're not doing so already. Check out the merchandise. There's a link in the chat and in the description for that one. A big, big thank you to everyone who's got involved today, everyone who's got involved in the chat. Make sure you're hitting that like button. I'm Jay. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.